Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Lotus Life podcast. How are you? Thank you so much for being here with me. It's an incredible honor. And I love what I do. I love my job. I love being able to share my experiences with you. And this episode is really about my experiences around fear and what I've learned about how to deal with them, some tips. In fact, I'm going to give you 5 tips today on how to work with the energy of fear and make it work for you. I'm not going to say 5 tips to overcome it, although this will probably help you, but it will absolutely help you work with it. And the reason I don't think we need to overcome it all the time is because fear is actually a little bit misunderstood. It gets a bad rep, but also it's just like not always what it seems. So we're going to unpack that a little bit, give you my special flavor of what I think fear is, talk a little bit about how I have leveraged fear in the past and really recently in my life to use the energy of fear to help me catapult myself in the direction of my dreams. So stick around. I've got an awesome episode for you. So first of all, if you're watching this YouTube video, I am in my office, but I'm on the other side of my desk. This is like so perfect for some reason. Well, I know why, not just for some reason. I know why. It allows me to like focus on the yoga mat that's behind me with the same camera. Whereas before I would be on one side and then I'd have to turn my camera and get myself, and I'd just be going back and forth around these desks anyhow. But now for the yoga teacher training that's going on right now, I can actually record here and then just switch to the yoga mat and go back and forth a lot easier. So, I guess that's just a story to let you know that's why it looks different if you're watching this video. Anyway, to the point of this episode, fear. Fear. Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, here it is. I'm just going to like right out of the gate say this. You're going to die one day. You're going to die one day. Are you going to continue to let fear rule you? Hopefully you said no. But before we get there, let's back up a little bit because honestly, that is how I live my life. I do remind myself on the reg to just be like, you might not get another chance to do this. You might not get another chance. You just better take action now. And I've actually learned that every time I do that, every time I say, you might not get another chance, you could die tomorrow, just do this. Go talk to that person. Go apply for that job. Leave that job. Start your own business. Join that gym. Go say hi and make a friend. Like all of these little micro things to the big ass things that scare me, I feel like I've learned out of habit to just quickly take action. And the faster you learn to do that, the sooner you learn the one of actually that's your 6th point. I don't even have that down. I said I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to work with the energy and possibly overcome it. There's your 6th one right there. Is this learn to start taking quick action. It's the waiting. It's the you trying to figure things out. It's you thinking of every possible circumstance. It's you trying to think of what you should say before you even are in the conversation. It's all this extra planning we do that like hypes up the situation way more than it needs to be. And now it's this big thing on a pedestal that just freaks us out. So I would say avoid all of that and just take action. And when you start getting in the habit of taking swift action, you then eliminate fear out of the game because it actually doesn't have a chance to jump in and like grab you, right? Like stick its claws into you. You're just moving too quickly. You're like silky slick and like wet or something. It's like nothing can even stick to your surface. You're moving so quick, fear can't even catch you. I remember, being so riddled with fear. It was right after my divorce. And actually, I was still going through it. But we had sold the house in Syracuse, New York. And I needed to continue my studies. I was at the time finishing up my undergraduate degree at SUNY Oswego. And so I decided to move closer to campus. And I was really terrified. This is my first time living outside of Syracuse. And this was like 6 years ago now. So, like, I was just in my early 30s, right? And I haven't lived, I've visited, I've traveled, I've been various parts all over the world, but like, I never lived anywhere else. I never really changed my zip code. So I was scared for that reason. And I remember I moved into my apartment. Like, I had this housewarming party. My friends and family were there. It was a wonderful moment, even though I was incredibly sad inside. And then everyone left. And I felt this dread wash over me and an isolation and a fear like I've never felt before. I was alone in a whole new way. And I was alone and finishing up my undergraduate degree, thinking about doing my graduate degree at the time. I wasn't sure if I was going to go ahead with it, but I did end up doing that. So I was kind of contemplating the next step, alone in a new city. This was also a tiny, like, Oswego is a country city, but it's, I mean, it's got its perks. I love it here. But Oswego compared to Syracuse, Syracuse seems like New York City. Syracuse seems like Manhattan compared to Oswego. And I was really sad about that because I was like, gosh, I can't even get good food. Like, there's really crappy grocery stores up here. All the gyms suck up here. I'm so used to these boutique gyms down in Syracuse. Like, I was just such a Syracuse snob, I guess, that I come up here to Oswego and I'm like, this country bumpkin living sucks. And so what I would do to avoid my fear of actually, like, my reality was I'd get in my car almost every single night after class and I'd drive to Syracuse. That was like a 45-minute drive. I would drive every night into Syracuse and go to the cafes where, like, my friends usually are, or I know the barista, or maybe that cute boy that I like might be there. And, like, I'll go to my gym again and I'll keep the membership. And I kept going back and forth from Syracuse to Oswego so that I didn't have to feel the reality, which I was terrified of, which I actually lived in Oswego. And everything I once knew had completely decimated and was totally changed. I did not want to feel that. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you've had a moment in your life where you were totally avoiding it. Like, the last thing you were going to do is stop and acknowledge it and feel it, because it sucks, right? It's just so scary and it's so sad. But what I finally realized after I was just spending all this crazy amounts of money on gasoline, but, like, I also just realized on one of those long drive home that I actually wasn't, like, my cup wasn't getting filled. What I thought would happen was, like, I'd feel good. I feel connected to my old roots in Syracuse, and by me going to all my old stomping grounds and just going to all the restaurants, and hey, I would fill my cup, but I actually still felt sad, which was kind of weird. And then on the other hand, I realized quickly that if I didn't make the decision to stay put in my new residence, in my new town, I would never meet new people. I would never get a chance to experience that city and build new relationships, which is exactly what I was craving, right? Like, I was driving back and forth to Syracuse trying to find connection again because I was so lonely and I was afraid of my loneliness because I'd never felt anything like that before. So it hit me, I need to actually stay put. So I did. It scared me, but I made the decision. I stayed in Oswego and I just stopped driving my car into Syracuse. I stayed around. I started walking outdoors a little bit more. I started meeting my neighbors in my apartment complex. I started ordering some takeout food and walking. I was, like, right downtown, so I could walk to all these restaurants. And I started to appreciate the cuisine. I started to shop at the local grocery stores and know it wasn't a giant chain, but they were really nice mom and pop stores around. And I slowly started to feel the beauty of the area. And I slowly started to feel at home. I started seeing familiar faces. I went for a walk every day up the road and around the corner and to the lake. There's a beautiful park there called Brightbeck Park. And I would, start to notice familiar faces. We would wave, how's it going? Started to know people by name, started to make connections and friendships. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh my God, what was I even afraid of? What was I even afraid of? This is so wonderful. And that was probably like a good 2 months of integration and really feeling it. I don't know if you can relate to that. Do you have a moment in your life maybe where you actually got through it? Do you have a moment where something was so scary but you stuck with it? You did it anyway. That you began to see that it wasn't as scary as it initially you thought it was. And that brings me to my first point, which is fear. There's this really cool acronym. You probably heard this before, but fear being false evidence appearing as real. FEAR, false evidence appearing as real. I love that. Because sometimes that is all it is. Like there's fear like, oh my God, I'm in the woods and it's dark out and that twig just snapped. What is it? Right? Like, is there a bear? Is it a mountain lion? Should I run? Am I going to die? Right? Like, or I'm in an alleyway late at night. I don't know why I would be in an alleyway late at night, but in this scenario, I am. And, I see a shadow coming up behind me. Those are moments to be legitly scared. And I'm not saying you should run toward the stick that just broke and toward the spooky shadow. No, like there are moments, get the hell out of there, right? But like I'm talking about the moments that aren't going to kill us. The moments that are scary because they're false evidence appearing as real. We have believed some story that we're going to die. If I stayed put in Oswego, I was going to die. Nothing was the same. I wasn't literally going to die. I knew that, but inside my personality, who I thought I was, all my habits, all my driving routes, all my stories about who I was just like thrown in the dumpster and set on fire. It's like, okay, well, then what do I do now, right? So often that's the case. When the story changes so dramatically, we feel so much fear. We feel a lot of other emotions, dread, sadness, loss. We also feel fear. Now, fear is really powerful. We put it on a pedestal. Most of us that don't do this type of self-development, that don't listen to podcasts like this, that don't, like I know all of you that are listening, you want to grow. You're constantly someone who wants to grow and change, learn about yourself. But other people, they feel fear and they're like paralyzed. Oh, fear must be I can't do it. Fear to some people is an initial signal that it's absolutely peril if they go on. But the thing is it's false evidence appearing as real, which means that it's not real, but your mind is believing it is. So right there, step number one is the first tip I have for you is to reframe. When you feel fear, reframe it. This is false evidence appearing as real. Say that out loud if you need to. This is false evidence appearing as real, which means this is not real. But my nervous system is interpreting it as new. The reframing is really an understanding of legitimately what fear is. Fear, there's a little part of your brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala's job is to let you know if a situation or a person or an event is safe or not. When your amygdala lights up or it's activated or it's working, that means it's really feeling and giving you the response of fear. Most of the time, because of our evolutionary adaptation, I know a little bit about this because I studied neuroscience during my undergrad and graduate degree, but like your evolutionary adaptation is designed to keep you alive. So more chances than not, your amygdala is going to see and perceive life as a threat, especially if that's all you've ever practiced. So stay with me. I'm going to wrap this up here, okay? But like, I'm going to bring this into a perfect story for you on why it's important to really develop yourself and why it's important to step into uncomfortable situations and learn that, hey, just because this is scary does not mean I'm going to fail or die. Because the more often you step into scary, fearful moments and do it anyway, you will probably succeed and you'll go, oh my God, that was such false evidence appearing as real. That wasn't as scary as I thought. And that's going to be evidence. Every time you do that, evidence that starts to stack up that when I'm afraid, I can do it anyway, and it's not a big deal. So then all that evidence starts to stack up. That's changing neurologically your relationship to all future fearful moments. In fact, you won't even really register those moments as fearful because you have restructured your relationship. Parts of the brain have literally been rewired. You have retrained your brain and healed a huge part of the nervous system by actually stepping into fear-based situations. It's like exposure therapy, you guys. I'm sure you've heard of that. If you've ever done any cognitive behavioral therapy, I haven't, but like studied it in my undergrad, and that's what it is. We just put you in slowly, slowly, and slowly into the moments that freak you out, that look like the thing that gave you trauma before. People have a fear of spiders. Well, we start exposing you to spiders. First, they're tiny stickers, right? Like sticker. Then there's a fake one that looks like, then we put you in a VR headset and then now you're seeing them at a distance and now you're seeing them really close up. Then you might get you looking at a real spider like 10 feet away in a cage, locked in a cage, locked in it, right? But like then we remove a cage or remove a layer and then now the spider's just there on the table. This is like stepping. It's gradation. It's stepping you slowly toward the biggest fear of all. That's exactly what you should be doing with your life, is look for exciting moments. Because exciting moments, you guys, are where we usually get the wires crossed. So what I mean by that is this. Typically, when we're not used to having great experiences, maybe in the past you were made fun of, you were bullied in school, or you didn't have supportive parents, or you had a really jerk brother or sister, or you had a spouse that didn't support you. We have all of these different reasons to not believe in ourselves. That doesn't mean it gets to stay like that. You get to rewrite the paradigm by exposing yourself, yes, over and over again into moments that are exciting, because excitement and fear typically run on the same neurological pathways. We see the same neurotransmitters, we see the same hormones, cortisol, epinephrine, etc. Vasodilation happens. The physiological response is similar. But when we think we're going to be scared and yet we say, hey, this is false evidence appearing as real, so that means this isn't fear. This isn't a moment to be afraid. This is a moment to be excited. That's the reframing. Okay? So first thing, when you feel fear, label it, false evidence appearing as real. Second thing, remind yourself, I'm afraid right now because my nervous system has yet to experience this moment, or this person, or stepping on stage like this, or pushing record on my video and starting my first Instagram live for the first time, or buying a microphone and doing my first podcast for the first time. All the things which I have done. Those were all firsts for me that were really scary at first. Now I love it. I'm obsessed. I was absolutely terrified to do my first Instagram live, and I haven't looked back at it, but I'm sure it's awful. And I had no integrity and just like kind of shy and probably messed up, and I was scared. But I knew it was false evidence appearing as real. It wasn't actually scary. It's just that it was new. And so I reframed it. And then I told myself, Kim, the more you do these little things that excite you, the more you'll stack up the evidence to remind yourself in the future that you can do scary things that actually aren't anything to be afraid of. They're just things that are exciting. One more thing, and I'm going to move on to the second point. Why are they exciting? Because you're passionate about it. Most of the things in my life, I don't know, tell me if you can relate to this, but most of the things in my life that I'm, air quotes here, scared of, afraid of, I've just got my wires crossed and I'm not afraid at all. I'm actually just really deeply excited. And I've misinterpreted my butterflies, my sweating, my nerves, my heart rate increasing, all as I'm going to fail. When in fact, I was just incredibly passionate and ready to go. Okay, so that's why reframing is so important. You're going to bust up a lot of that fear right there and bust the myth, mythbusters right there. Okay. Okay. Second point I want to give you is to remind yourself of this. It's normal. I'm going to say it again. It is normal. It is normal to feel afraid. Why? Because your nervous system is giving you the response that it was wired to do for hundreds of thousands of years. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. So it's going to do just that by giving you a fear response to say, hey, this might not be safe. This might be a threat. Why don't we not do it? But then your conscious mind, the prefrontal cortex, actually, it's a part of the brain that's right behind the forehead. That's the part of the brain that can override it by doing step one, which was your reframing. But the first thing, second thing is, first thing is reframing. Second thing is take it easy on yourself. Really, I would love it for you to be gentle. Be gentle. I've had to learn that, and it's such an easier path forward. I have really taken myself just through the ringer, pretending that I shouldn't be afraid. Really, the reframing step one allows me to understand what fear is. And then I can work with it. Is this actually something I was supposed to be afraid of? No, I'm just really passionate. Okay, cool. Now I know what's really up. I love this. Okay, must mean I just need to practice it more, which we'll get to in a second. I will keep practicing it. My nervous system will get used to it. And by the way, this is normal. Okay? Now, the third one, this one is interesting, and I've just started doing this recently. I'm writing it down. I write down what I'm afraid of to get it out. Sometimes, if I don't get it out by writing it or saying it out loud, it gets kind of stuck in your brain like a worm in there. It just goes around and around and around, and I ruminate. I don't know if you guys any ruminators. I guess I think a lot of us are ruminators because I've talked to a lot of you outside of this podcast at the studio or wherever inside of the manifesting mastery membership. We love to think obsessively about the things that freak us out, which is only reinforcing it. Right? Wherever your energy goes, that thing you're focused on grows. So we don't want the fear to grow. We want the non-fear, the excitement about it to grow. We want our courage to grow and increase. We want our competency to increase. We don't want the fear to grow. So when I write it down, I can actually do something with a piece of paper. I can rip it up. I can set it on fire safely, right? Fire safety, your kids. But I can, I don't know. You can do whatever you want to do. You can just rip it up, blow it away. You can just speak some words to it, bury it in the backyard as an earth meditation. These are all various ways you can start to shift the energy and get it out of the brain. It's actually called cognitive offloading. That's the cognitive or the psychological technique, the neuroscience name for it. When you cognitively offload something, you're saying, hey, brain, let's take it out for a second and put it on paper so that you don't have to freaking think about it anymore. I'm going to free you up some space, girlfriend. Okay. And your brain's like, thank you. I hate thinking about that. And then you can do a ceremony, rip it up, burn it, eat it. No, don't eat it. But you know what I'm saying? Bury it in the earth. Make a ceremony of this precious, precious sphere that's normal and that you've just reframed. Okay, the fourth one. This one is so important. So very important. Listen, pay attention. Number 4 is move your body. You guys, I cannot tell you how many times I have been freaked the fuck out by something. And I come into this very room right here, right now, in my office, and I turn on music and I dance and I shake and I move and I breathe and I just get it out of my head and I put it into my body where I can then feel it and not hear the story about it. If it stays in your head, you are going to ruminate. You're going to worry more. And part of the reason that happens is because your brain is tired. We're so overstimulated. And it's like, I don't know what to do with this info. We're afraid. I think I'm just going to be more afraid. I don't know how to transmute this. I don't know how to move this out of my body. And body goes, I got it. Why don't you bring it on down here? And that's where breathing and movement, this is why radical rituals, and I teach you guys inside the membership, MMM, so valuable, so important, because you build a routine of getting what's called top-down processing, which is all about the words in the story. We set that aside and we start to do bottom-up processing, which is body first. Now we can integrate the feeling. I can be with it without words. It doesn't have the same pull. And then the other thing that you're doing is you are increasing your energy. When you increase your pranic energy, you are going to feel spacious. You with me? You increase your energy, you're going to feel spacious. Now you're this big and your fear is this big. Whereas before, you were this big and your fear was this big, right? Like it was so disproportionate. No wonder it was ruling you and making you go crazy, making you lose sleep, making you not eat well, making you total crab apple and going around and being a jerk to everyone because you did not do the work to expand. So I'm going to push you guys right now. Here comes the coach. Ready? Where can I see in your schedule that you have scheduled movement time? I don't care. I love teaching it and I love doing it in the morning. And those of you who do the training with me or have stuck around for a while, you know why. AM time, early morning while you're sleepy is important. But I don't even care. Get it in whenever. Where can I look at your schedule and see you are scheduling for movement? Yoga, running, gym, dance, radical rituals. I don't care what it is, but you've got to get into your body, not out of your head. You've got to do that bottom up processing. Okay. Enough on that. Fifth tip coming at you. Practice it and build competency. What do I mean by that? Most of the things that you are freaked out about probably are just new. You're a beginner. You might be reacting to being a beginner more than you are actually to the very thing that you got to do or you got to learn or you got to perform or whatever it is that you need to do that you're afraid of. Or maybe you got to let go of something. Maybe you got to if you want to clean up your diet, you got to let go of sugar, but you're sort of afraid of that, fear of the loss there. Either way, you got to practice these things. The more you practice something, the better you're going to get at it. That's called competency. When you build your skills, you're building competency. Everyone feels like an idiot and just a juvenile when they're starting something new. And that's usually when you feel the fear. Oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. I feel like an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. I hope no one calls on me. I hope no one asks me, do you know what you're doing? Because the answer will be no, right? Please don't talk to me while I'm learning this. I can't stand looking like a beginner. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. But guess what? We all start there. I've started there a million times. And I don't ever want to stop being a beginner in certain things. I'm always going to be growing. And if you're like that, then you're signing up for always being a beginner at some point. So let me ask you, are you still going to let fear rule you? Are you going to let yourself constantly be afraid of starting something new? Or are you going to see it as it is? You're going to reframe. You're going to dance it out. You're going to write it down. You're going to remind yourself that it's normal. You're going to practice the skill set to build your tools, to build your skills, build your competency. All of those things will help you overcome or at the very least decrease the amount of fear. I do want to leave you with one more thought, and I guess this is number 6 or number 7. I've lost track of how many. This episode is just packed with tips for you. I've lost count of the number. 7, number 8, whatever. Is be patient with yourself. Some things like public speaking has been a combination of things for me. I used to dread it, even though I loved it. right there, wires crossed. So I had to really learn that I loved it. I just needed to practice it more. And there's no magic time set. Like if you practice it for 4 months, you'll be better. You won't be afraid. I don't know what that is for you. For me, it was several years. And finally, now I've got the right coaches in place. I've had the right life experiences. I've got my skills that I have scheduled in so I can practice and build competency in public speaking. That's why the podcast, that's why YouTube videos, that's why I go live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. for live manifesting coaching. That's why I have private clients. That's why I do digital courses. That's why I lead day retreats, and I can keep going on, because it became essential for me that I no longer let fear tell me how I'm going to feel about the thing I actually love. I'm no longer going to let fear stop me from practicing something that I know I could get better in. And once you get better, once you grow your skills, your fear will decrease in correlation to that. So practice your skills. Okay, so for the top, feel it and reframe it. Reframe. Fear is false evidence appearing as real. Remind yourself it's normal. Fear is a normal thing to fear. Write it down. Write it down, do a little ceremony, get it off the brain, do that cognitive offloading, and then maybe do a cool little ceremony, bury it out in the woods, or you burn it in a bonfire, or you dissolve it in water, you rip it up really aggressively and say no more, or something cool like that, right? Move your body, dance, do karate, do yoga, do active meditation, join a membership. Like I've got Manifesting Mastery membership, opens up around December. It's 4 months together where we constantly are moving the body, where we are always looking to the body as a source of inspiration to help us shift and expand so that our fears are just a tiny part of us, not all of us. And then finally, practice what you're afraid of to build competency and familiarity. Did I say that word right? Familiarity? That's a tough one. I hope that this served you so very much. Let me know, you guys. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much again for being here and listening. I love you. And I will be with you again next week.